You know that feeling when you're just scrolling and scrolling through news, memes, stories that all seem to contradict each other? It's kind of like you're walking through this crazy maze, and you honestly can't tell what's real anymore.
And why does it seem like everything is just a remix of something that's already happened, you know? And why is it so tough to just be sincere without feeling kind of naive? Well, guess what? There's actually a name for all of this, for this whole cultural vibe we're in.
And yeah, if you can get a handle on it, it's pretty much the key to making sense of the world right now. Okay, so let's dive right in.
All right, so to really get postmodernism, we first have to talk about what came right before it, which was modernism. Now, I know they sound almost the same, but trust me, their takes on the world are like night and day. So, picture this. It's the early 20th century, right after World War I. The world is just shattered. Modernist artists looked at all that brokenness, and their art was this really desperate, often super tragic search for some new meaning in all the pieces. But the whole mindset that came next, whoa. It had a totally different approach.
Yeah, so postmodernism looks at that exact same broken world. And instead of screaming, it kind of lets out this little, a wry, knowing laugh. It's like it decided, hey, maybe there was never a solid center in the first place. Maybe the ruins themselves are the only interesting thing left to talk about. So that feeling of anguish, it got swapped out for irony.
Okay, so how in the world did we get here, right? How do we go from this intense search for the truth to basically questioning if truth even exists? Well, it all kicks off in the shadow of World War II.
I mean, think about it. The absolute unimaginable horror of the Holocaust, and then the world-shattering flash of the atomic bomb. This stuff didn't just end a war. It completely obliterated the West's faith in big ideas like progress and reason and even basic human goodness. The old foundations, just gone.
And you can really see the path it took. First, you have that deep trauma from 1945. That gives way to the 1960s and this absolute avalanche of media, television and advertising just pumping out a world of images that started to feel more real than actual reality. Fast forward to the 80s, and irony becomes the default setting. It's like a shield to keep from looking naive. And then, boom, the internet arrives, the ultimate postmodern machine, just fracturing reality into billions of little personalized bubbles.
Okay, so here's the absolute key concept. After 1945, belief in these things called meta-narratives. It just died. And what's a meta-narrative? It's one of those big stories a culture tells itself. You know the ones, science will save us all. History is marching towards freedom. This one religion has all the answers. All of a sudden, those stories didn't just feel naive anymore. They felt dangerous. And postmodernism is basically built on a deep, deep suspicion of any of those kinds of grand claims.
So what happens when you stop believing in all those big, overarching stories? Well, reality itself starts to feel different, kind of slippery. And postmodern thinkers came up with some new words to describe this new world. Let's look at a couple of the big ones.
Okay, first up, we've got hyperreality. Here's the deal with this one. It's the idea that the world of signs and symbols and simulations, think of it like the map, has become way more important than the actual physical place, the territory. It's like we're living in a copy of the world that's so powerful, it's basically replaced the original.
And you see this literally every single day. Think about that perfectly curated Instagram feed or that flawless LinkedIn profile. These simulations of a life, they often have more power, more social currency, and they feel more real than the messy, complicated person who's actually behind the screen. That right there is hyperreality in action.
All right, the second big tool in the toolbox is something called pastiche. The easiest way to think about this is it's the art of the remix. It's when you grab bits and pieces from totally different styles, different time periods, different genres, and you just mash them all together. And the key thing is, you're not trying to make fun of the old stuff. You're just using all those old pieces as like a new alphabet to write something new.
And once you see it everywhere. I mean, the entire Marvel universe, where you have a literal Norse god, a super soldier from the 1940s, and a high-tech billionaire all on the same team, that's pure pastiche. Or think about Stranger Things. It's not just set in the 80s, it is literally built out of the DNA of every 80s movie you've ever seen. Our entire pop culture basically runs on this engine of borrowing and blending.
Okay, so, as you can probably guess, when you start tearing down all the big stories and questioning reality itself, well, that comes with some pretty huge consequences. Postmodernism is, for sure, a double-edged sword.
On the one hand, this can be incredibly liberating. right? By showing that all those dominant stories about history or identity are just that. They're just stories, not some unbreakable law of the universe. It gives a powerful voice to marginalized groups to push back and challenge those narratives. It helps all of us be more critical of the media we're constantly consuming. But there's a flip side. If every truth is questionable, you risk sliding into this post-truth world where facts are just a matter of opinion. And if every ideal is seen as just another power play, it can lead to this really deep cynicism that makes it almost impossible for people to come together and fight for a shared cause.
The philosopher Jean-François Lyotard, he absolutely nailed it. He basically summed up the entire postmodern condition with this one phrase. It's not about believing in nothing. It's about having this deep-seated skepticism toward any story that claims it has all the answers.
And you can see this way of thinking explode across our culture. In books, you get Kurt Vonnegut making his hero in Slaughterhouse-Five come unstuck in time, jumping all over the place to show just how absurd and traumatic war really is. In movies, you get Pulp Fiction, which just shatters its own timeline and mashes up genres just for the fun of it. And even in architecture, instead of those clean, sterile, modern buildings, postmodernism looked at the crazy, chaotic, commercial energy of a place like Las Vegas and said, yeah, that's what's interesting.
So, that kind of brings us to right now, doesn't it? We've taken apart all the old stories. We're swimming in this hyper-reality, and irony is pretty much our default setting. So, what's next? Are we just stuck in this hall of mirrors for good? Well, a lot of thinkers and artists are starting to say that the next big shift is actually a move past all that irony. There's this growing feeling that we're all just tired of the cynicism. There's this real hunger for genuine emotion, for real connection that isn't hiding behind some detached, knowing smirk. But look, this isn't about just going back to those old, simplistic, blind faith stories. Not at all. It's about trying to find a new kind of sincerity, a sincerity that comes after you've been through all the irony. It's about trying to build new stories, stories about connection, about empathy, while being fully aware that, yeah, they're just stories, they're constructs. But we choose to believe in them anyway because we need them.
And really, that's the ultimate question that postmodernism leaves us wrestling with. It handed us this incredible freedom by showing us that all the cages we live in, they're just made of stories. So the challenge now, for you, for me, for all of us, is what do we build with that freedom? Knowing that we are the authors now, can we actually write a better, more humane next chapter?